For quite some time now, there has been a competition. There has been a debate that between the National Assembly and the Senate, which one should be treated as an upper house. I remember, I think it was Uhuru's second term, when both houses spent a lot of time debating. There are even occasions when each house would undermine the other one. There are ways, more than one, where you'd find that one house would undermine the other one deliberately to show that they have power. There are occasions when the National Assembly would simply say that this is a money matter. So this being a money matter, that was exclusively ideas to do with the National Assembly. But the purpose of me recording this today was to show both appreciation and endorsement of the Senate as being the upper house. When both houses handled the issue of impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua as the Deputy President of Kenya, irrespective of whichever level, whichever mlengo wa siasa uko, whether you are a Kuzimia person or you are a Kenya Kwisha person, both sides, such that Kenya Kwisha and Kuzimia people will agree with me that when it came to the issue of handling the impeachment of Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua, the Senate effortlessly showed that it deserves to be the upper house. Yes, we know that in Kenya, our political situation has placed us in such a way that an elected leader, be it an MCA, MNA, a senator, or even a senator, they serve two masters. They serve their jurisdiction, and they also serve the political parties that nominated them there. And in many situations, you find that they vote as per the needs and aspirations of the political parties. In this case, it is obvious that they voted according to their political leanings. That is obvious. But even if they did so, the senators behaved more mature in everything, from the word go to the end. We know, at least even if we did know then, but we now know that Gachagua's time was over. And as I have just said, that when they go to assemblies, be it the county assembly, national assembly, or even the Senate, they usually go to say what their political godfathers have decided. But look at it this way. These are two people. This person here has been sent with the same instructions as this person here has been sent. But the way the instructions were the same. The instructions to the senators and the instructions to the members of the National Assemblies were the same. But you can see how well members of the Senate handled the issue. They handled it so maturely that they deserve to be praised. Let us start with from the speakers and the deputy speakers. The Speaker of the National Assembly and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly had already pronounced themselves before the matters came to. And you know, they spoke knowingly. You know, you can be excused if you did not know that the matters will come before you. But they knew that the matters would be before them, but still about it. That is how they did it. But the Speaker of the Senate, together with his deputy, never spoke anything, whether pro or anti the motion, before, during, and even after the motion. So kongole kwa Senate. We now go to the MPs. We now go to for the MPs. We have, of course, the MPs came from political parties. Senators came from certain coalitions, and so did the members of the National Assembly. But you'll find that I'm trying to recall any time when the senators have even commented on the motion before, during, or even after the discussion. Maybe there is, but I'm not aware. But the members of the National Assembly were all over commenting on the motion. And that is why even Gachagua is trying to, although, anyway, I wanted to comment on the two, isn't it? Although what I'm seeing is just chasing the wind. Because he will go to court, and as things happening, Kindiki will be sworn in, and once Kindiki is sworn in, the court will just save him from, having been impeached. In the future, he will never hold any public office. So, if the courts will save him, they will only save him in removing that issue of, in the future he cannot hold a public office and such a thing, such and such a thing. I didn't want to talk about him on this particular one. I wanted to compare the two houses of parliament. As I said, as much as I know, senators did not comment on it. Deputy Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the Senate, I'm not aware of them having even talked about the topic before it started. I'm not aware. Then, even during the handling of, you could see the chaos that was there. It was like the National Assembly were competing on who is to throw the biggest stone on the accused. But the Senate, and if there was anybody who was new to Kenya, who had just landed from Kenya, from Pluto, he or she would tell you that looking at the way the Senate was handling itself, one may be forgiven to form an opinion that the Senate was just waiting for whatever was to be presented before the Senate. And even right now, it is easier for the members of the Senate to say that whatever decisions they made were decisions that were made based on evidence that was presented before the Senate, and so on and so forth. So that one has made it possible and obvious, it has made it obvious for everybody to conclude that the Senate, the kind of debate, especially on the impeachment of one Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua, was far more better than that one of the National Assembly. When Kenyans were granting themselves the 2010 Constitution, there was need to have a Senate. But then there came to be a question of which is to be the upper house. Was it to be the Senate or the National Assembly? Well, Kenyans, especially politicians, or Kenyans when they are talking politics, they can spend ages, they can spend hours speaking nothing. Speaking nothing. Because why should we even have had a discussion in the first place on which is the upper house and which is the lower house? As we speak now, almost all primary schools in Kenya have got what we call junior school. Now it's like deciding to have a junior school in your primary school and then deciding which one is going to be superior to the other. All over the world, there is no country where even the thought of saying that which one should be bigger, which one should be the upper house, they have never thought of that. It is just like thinking of which one is bigger, the primary school or the secondary school. In all over the world, the Senate, or whatever they called it, because over 95% of the countries that have two chambers, they call it the Senate. Other countries call it other names. I will come to the other countries that have other names. But whatever name you give it, whatever name you give to this, to that house, the representatives or the national assemblies are usually the lower house. I think we copied a lot from the USA, including the fact that in the US you find members of the House of Representatives are usually argue with the senators by claiming that they are the upper house. Yes, in the US they also try to argue that way. But all over the world, representatives are usually the lower house. And the other house, whether you call it the Senate, whether you call it Council of Governors, whether you call it Council of Elders, whether you call it whatever name you call it, a House of Lords, yeah. Even if you call it House of Lords, it is usually the upper house. It is usually the upper house. But Kenya, the only reason that actually, the way the 2010 has placed the Senate, it has placed the Senate into a situation where the Senate is a super, MCS. They are super MCS. What do they talk? They only discuss things to do with the county. They don't talk any other thing. But in a proper situation where we have two houses, the Senate is usually the upper house, and usually there is no motion, whatever motion it is. There is no motion that can pass without the second reading. The first reading is done by the National Assembly. Then the second reading is done by the upper house. And then the third reading is done by the National Assembly. You see, in Kenya, we have 3 readings. Why should we have 3 readings in the National Assembly? When it is the same people. But in other democracies, we have the 3 readings where the Senate has the second reading and does the correction. When the Senate has done the correction, then it is taken back to the National Assembly or House of Representatives, which now does the third and final reading, bearing in mind the correction that the House of Senate has done. Now, as I finish off, I want to give you, is it 2 or 3? Yeah, 3 types of upper houses, so that when we amend our constitution, we choose on how to make our Senate better and make it the upper house. We have majority, over 80% of governments with the upper house, usually Senate do represents, let's say, a county or even a state. Like in the USA, each of the states, like California, has two senators. Somebody may ask, is it one per agenda? No. We usually, every time they hold elections, they have, there are 100. 100 is nearly 33, isn't it? So every 2 years, 33 senators do go for election. So you find that in a state like California, there are two senators and they were not elected at the same time. So you'll find that during 2022, one senator is taken and the other senator is 2024. And then you find they are referring themselves as Junior California Senator and Senior California. It is not held for gender. But if Kenya, we decide to have, let's say, 47 senators times 2, so that each election, we can have that. Each election we have a Nairobi lady senator and Nairobi gent senator. We could have that. So the Senate usually is an upper house where the lower house do not pass things without the input of the Senate. And the upper house usually has lesser members and usually has lesser sittings. Usually it is like in the university, you have an external examiner. You are examined by this university, but then there is an external examiner who has to pass through. So before the motion is passed by the lower house, that is what happened. So most states call it senator. In South Africa, it is called Council of Governors. There is even a question that has been asked by Kenyans as to whether the work of the Senate cannot be done by the governors. You see, the governors in Kenya, they have something called Council of Governors. In South Africa, Council of Governors, it is not Council of Governors, but it is Council of Provincial Premiers. What we have in Kenya as governors is what in South Africa is called Provincial Premier, Prime Ministers of a certain province. Now, they usually go and meet in the parliament as a Council of Governors, which acts like a Senate. Kenyans should sit down and ask themselves, can't we have in future an amendment in the Constitution such that the governor and maybe his deputy, they also go to Nairobi as senators? So that is what I've said. The upper house, we have senators like in the US. We have Council of Governors like South Africa. In some countries, we even have Council of Elders. We have Council of Elders in some countries. Countries such as such as UK, United Kingdom. That one is usually called Council of Elders. But elders in British language, they call it Lords. So it is called House of Lords. And you can only become a member of the House of Lords if the king or queen has made you a lord or a knight. Yeah, it's called a knight. So there are various orders. There is a Knight of King George and King James. There is Knight of the Cross, Knight of what? You become a lord. And when you become a lord, then you are entitled to attend the House of Lords. If you remember, those who are of my age and older, initially in the 60s, the councillors didn't get salaries in Kenya. They used to only be paid sitting allowances whenever they sat during the councils. It is in 1974 that councillors were now made sub-MPs. and MCS are now sub-MPs. Or yeah, sub-MPs, sub-MNS. So you find that in Britain, House of Lord, any person who is a lord or a lady can attend and it is not compulsory for you in Britain to attend the upper house. We have lords, we have people. I'll come to that. So if there is a topic that deals with you, with a specialization, then you attend that meeting and give your views. Now, who are these lords in Britain? Britain, there are two types of lords. There is the hierarchy. Kizungu ni ngumu kidogo. If your father dies and he was Lord of Kabrengu and you are the eldest son, then you become the next Lord of Kabrengu. Then there are those lords who earn the lordship. For example, you are a mathematician or a doctor, and you have done so much in your doctorship and whatever. You even end up being knighted as the Lord or whatever. You become a Lord, but when you die, since your child is not a mathematician, or since your child is not, a surgeon, then it goes like this, that when you die, that one goes. And if you are Lord, because you know something here and there, if you are a Lord and you know something left and right, when they are talking about those things, if it is a finance bill and you used to be the Minister for Finance, you used to read the budget, or used to be the central bank governor, or you had something, or if there is a law that is going to be passed that has bearing in medical and you used to be a surgeon, so you could attend that. That is how the House of Lords is in UK. So, as I finish off, I would request Kenyans that in the future when we amend laws, we make the upper house be the Senate. And if possible, we either make it be the Council of Governors, and if it is not Council of Governors, we make it such a way that we do away with nominated senators, because how much... Okay, let me give an example. Isaac Mwaura, he was a nominated senator representing people living with disability. Now, if you take all the salary he got throughout that time and then compare it to whatever input he had put in the people living with disability, I would have wished that money would have been given to Kenya Association of People Living with Disability. It would have even been done better. So we either convert the Senate into Council of Governors, or if we don't convert it into Council of Governors, we then do have two senators per county, each representing each gender. Thank you for listening to me. And as I've said, I want to thank the Senate on this case, that they performed so well that they effortlessly proved it to be the upper house. Thank you.